In this video, we're going to take a closer look at block volume replication with an OCI. And what block volume replication is really useful is disaster recovery, because what it enables us to do is replicate the block volumes from a VM instance between availability domains or between regions. In this case, what we will do is take a block volume for one of my web servers. We'll replicate this across to a secondary region, which in this case would be UK West, and show how we can fail over between the two regions by spinning up a new VM in the UK West region using the block volume that's been replicated across between the two. So the way this looks, within my OCI tenant, I have two regions, UK South and UK West. Within UK South, I have my web server that's available publicly. It has a single block volume attached, which essentially contains a C drive, which has all of the applications that are installed on the machine. What we'll do is configure block volume replication between this block volume in the UK South region to UK West. What this then means is if for whatever reason we need to fail over between the regions, so for example due to a region failure, what we can then do is provision a new VM in the UK West region, pointing it to the replicated block volume. Now, as it uses asynchronous replication, there's typically a lag of around a minute, so it's pretty good for disaster recovery scenarios where you need to minimize the RPO and RTO of failover. So what we'll do now is we will jump into my OCI tenancy and I'll show you exactly what we have. So you'll see we've got UK South selected, which is our primary region. If I go to compute and then go to instances, we should have a single VM instance called Web Server 1. This is available publicly, and if we just pop the public IP address that I have here into a browser, you'll be able to see my lovely fancy website that's hosted on this server. So what we need to do is replicate the block volume that is attached to this web server to our secondary region, which in this case is UK West, which is Newport. And the way we'll go about doing this is if we select the VM instance and then go to storage, what we will do is replicate the boot volume, which is also block volume, but within the UI it's differentiated. A boot volume and an attached block volume are essentially the same. The difference is a boot volume, in the case of Windows, would be a C drive. So we will select our boot volume, which as you can see is attached. And then if we select replicas, you can see that we don't have any replicas in place for this. If we then go to edit and then scroll right the way down to the bottom, we've got the option here to enable cross availability domain or region replication. Now, if you've got a region that has multiple availability domains, such as UK South, you could replicate between availability domains. In this case, we'll take it a step further and actually replicate between two individual regions. And all we need to do to this is to tick this little box here. We then choose the target region that we want to replicate to. So I'll select UK West. The availability domain, now there's only one AD within that region, so we don't really have much choice there. Select OK, hit the confirm button, and then select update. And what this will then do in the background is start to create a replica between this block volume within UK South and UK West. And what it does is it uses asynchronous replication. So typically with a lag of around a minute, those two block volumes will be in sync. Now, if we look at our, if we go back to our compute instances, we can see, yeah, we've got a web server 1 running. If we look at UK West, we don't actually have anything running. The reason being is that what we'll do is have the block volume replicated in the background, and then as and when we need to fail over between the two regions, what we'll do is create a new VM instance in the secondary region and point it to the replicated block volume. So what we'll do now is from our secondary region, go to storage, go to block volume replicas, and then if we go to boot volume replicas, we should be able to see our replica. So there it is. It's available. We can see when it was last synced. which was literally a minute ago. What I'll do now is, in order to be able to use a replica, so at failover time, what you need to do is activate it, which takes a clone of the synchronized replica, which is then able to be attached to a VM instance. So first step in failover is to hit this little button here called activate. Hit confirm. I'll just call this web server 1 is the name of the applicated replica that we've got. I'm going to keep all of the settings absolutely identical. And then once it has been activated, what we are then able to do is to create a VM instance from the activated replica. Okay, so we can now see the replica has gone back to the available state. So if we go to the list of boot volumes, we should now have a boot volume that has been created based off that boot volume that's been replicated. So what we'll do, if we select the boot volume itself, go to actions, and then create instance. So what we're doing now in our secondary region is creating an instance. We'll give it a name of web server 1. We will choose the virtual cloud network within this region, which is called demo VCNCWL. We'll select the public subnet that it needs to reside within. This essentially mirrors the exact configuration that we have within our primary region. And then just do next, next, create. And then what that'll do now is it will create a VM instance and it will hook it up to the replicated block volume that we've had. So for all intents and purposes, once this server is powered on and available, we should be able to connect to it, and it should essentially be the server that we had in our primary region, obviously that's just been replicated across and made available in our secondary region. Now what I will do while that is provisioning, if I go to compute and instances, we should see that that should be in the process now of coming up. That's come up quite quickly. We will go to our UK South and we'll shut down the instance that we were using previously, just to make sure that's not online. So we'll stop that. And to prove that it has been stopped, what we can do is just refresh this page, and it should, yeah, as you can see, it's going to time out there, which proves that that VM instance has shut down. Now, if we flip back to UK West, we can see I've got a web server. Because it's been provisioned in a secondary region and a different VCN, we've got a different private and a different public IP address. So, you know, if this was the real world and this was a public web server, there'd be a DNS change that needs to be made to point it towards the new public IP address that you've got. Now, what I'm going to do is just pop that public IP address into a browser, and the web page should render. There we go. And now if I take that IP and then log in to the VM instance itself, what we'll be able to do is to just check and confirm everything's as we expect. So there we go. It's disconnected my session. This was from the original VM. But if I go back into this and I just change the public IP address to the IP address of the replicated VM in the secondary region, and save that, and then if I connect to it, what should happen is it'll give us a warning that it's not been shut down gracefully. There we go. Because it's a crash consistent replica, so it'll say, well, just a minute, you didn't shut us down, because, you know, we didn't shut it down before we failed it over. We literally just took a copy of the replicate disk. There we go. We've proved that the website's up, but if we then look IIS, which this service is running, we'll be able to see that that's obviously up and running, and the website that we just browsed is there. So basically that's it in a nutshell. Really quick, easy way to do disaster recovery between regions. Obviously this demonstration's used Windows, but you could also use it for Linux servers too. Nice, easy way to do a little bit of disaster recovery and quick failover between regions. Thank you for watching.